Slight improvements. It's still more or less bed brown. No biggie. Just get to work from home. Occasional. Yeah. Word loss. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our channel. The date is Monday, the 27th of April, 2026. We are on Kitab Al-Tawheed, page 161, chapter 17. This is our 73rd Tawheed Halaqah. Chapter 17, page 161. Chapter title, Rational Evidences for the Supremacy of the Sharia. Rational inquiry establishes with certainty that sovereignty belongs to the Sharia for the one who exercises hukum, judgment over things in terms of permissibility and prohibition, and over human actions in terms of whether they are wajib, obligatory, mandub, recommended, makruh, disliked, or mubah, permissible, and over matters in contracts in terms of whether they are asbab, causes, shurut, conditions, mawani, impediments, sahih, valid, batil, invalid, fasid, defective, azima, definitive rulings, or rukhsa, dispensations. All of this is not based on natural suitability or aversion. That is, the sensation of pleasure or pain which may be discerned through direct experience or taste, nor is it grounded in notions of perfection or deficiency, which are also accessible through sensory perception and reason. Rather, the domain in question is that which relates to divine praise or blame, reward or punishment in both this world and the hereafter. In other words, the subject pertains to what arises in the divine essence in terms of wrath or pleasure, censure or commendation, will to punish or will to reward in relation to specific human actions. And in this matter, reason has no capacity to issue any independent judgment except to acknowledge that such a reality is rationally possible and nothing more. Among the reasons for this are the following. Firstly, that actions of Allah in the realm of creation, his rulings in the domain of Sharia are, in their final analysis, not subject to causal explanation. That is, they are not governed by any necessary causes that would obligate Allah to act in a specific way or rule in a particular manner. Instead, they ultimately revert, even after long causal chains and intermediary factors, to pure will and unconditioned volition. Several verses of the Quran present a clear exposition of this, namely, فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ, he does whatever he wills, and that is Surah 85:16. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَحْكُمُ مَا يُرِيدُ, that's Surah 5 verse 1. Indeed, Allah commands what he wills. يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ مَا كَانَ لَهُمْ
الخيرة من أمرهم.
Subhanallah wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. That's 28:68, and that is, your Lord creates what he pleases and chooses those he wills. They have no choice, so glory be to Allah, and may he be exalted above the partners they ascribe to him. لا يسأل أما يفعل وهم يسألون. He cannot be called to account for anything he does, whereas they will be called to account. And that's Surah 21:23. Now, the rational process is based on linking effects to causes, results to premises, and consequences to antecedents. But if the acts of Allah, exalted is his power and his rulings, are not causally determined, then the intellect has no access to them in and of itself. All that the intellect can conclude is that such rulings are permissible realities, and that it must await divine revelation to confirm their actual occurrence, should they emerge from the realm of possibility into existence. This applies equally to decrees related to creation and destiny. aqdiyah, takwiniyah, taqdiriyah, as well as to religious legal rulings. Secondly, that Allah is exalted, is His majesty, and sublime is His rank, is not bound to declare lawful what is pure and pleasurable, nor to prohibit that which is impure, painful, or harmful, even if this is indeed the general pattern of His rulings, especially in the blessed final Sharia brought by Muhammad SAW, which was revealed as a mercy to and kindness to His servants. Yet this orientation does not arise from any obligation upon him, nor from any authority above him that commands him. Far be he exalted above that. Rather, Allah is the absolute master, the freely acting agent. يخلق ما يشاء ويختار ما كان لهم الخيرة.
خيرة من أمرهم.
Your Lord creates what He pleases and chooses those He wills. They have no choice. Now, Surah 28:68. Nothing is impossible for Him, and nothing is beyond His capacity, except for what is necessitated by His essential truthfulness and reality, that is, by His being Al-Haq, the truth in His essence, His names, His attributes, and His acts. From this reality stem necessary conceptual, logical, and rational constraints, not limitations on His power, but intrinsic to His perception. Nothing is obligatory upon Him, except that which He has obligated upon Himself, and nothing is prohibited for Him, except that which He has prohibited upon Himself by virtue of His holiness, Al-Qudusiyah, that is, by His being Al-Quddus, As-Salam, the one of absolute perfection, absolute beauty, and absolute majesty, free from all imperfection and deficiency. Thirdly, that the acts of Allah, blessed and exalted is He, just like His essence and attributes, cannot be perceived through direct sensory experience in this world, for He, glorified is He, remains behind the veil. Thus no intellect or sense can independently discern His actions or intentions. There is therefore no recourse but to rely upon the truthful report from Allah concerning such matters, as He, the Exalted, says. This was the long ayah, so I can't really read it easily. They were messengers bearing good news and warning, so that mankind would have no excuse before Allah once the messengers had been sent. Allah is almighty and all-wise. And that's Surah 4:165, Surah Nisa. And another ayah, we have bound each human being's destiny on his neck. On the day of resurrection, we shall bring out a record for each of them, which they will find spread wide open. Read your record. Today your own soul is enough to calculate your account. Whoever accepts guidance does so for his own good. Whoever strays does so at his own peril. No soul shall bear another's burden, nor do we punish until we have sent a messenger. And that's Surah 17, verses 13 to 15. Since the legal judgment can only be confirmed on the basis of one of two sources, either the Sharia or reason and its related faculties, such as perception, taste, and so on. And since reason has no jurisdiction in this matter, it follows that the matter must be referred exclusively to the Sharia. This is because the issue pertains to obligation and prohibition, i.e., to that what Allah wills, what pleases or angers Him, and what He will hold accountable, reward, or punish for. And the intellect cannot on its own obligate or prohibit according to what Allah wills. It cannot know without the truthful report what is established in the divine essence. Such knowledge is not the remit of reason. It is therefore necessary that sovereignty belongs to the Sharia and that legal rulings are suspended until the coming of the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, with the divine message. As for the messenger, the explicit wording of the aforementioned verse makes it clear, nor do we punish until we have sent a messenger. This negation of punishment prior to the sending of a messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, indicates that people were not legally bound by divine rulings or doctrinal beliefs prior to revelation. From this, the correct view emerges that those known as Ahl al-Fitra, the people of the interval, are exempt from punishment. These are individuals who lived between the cessation of one divine message and the advent of the other, and they are to be judged like those to whom no message ever reached. This includes those who lived before the prophetic mission of the Messenger Muhammad SAW, or those to whom his message never reached. For Allah, blessed and exalted, does not punish anyone unless a warning precedes it, or unless clear evidence comes from him. He does not punish any soul except for its own sin, and only after the warning has reached it. The proof has been established, and the truth has been made manifest. Accordingly, prior to the ascending of the Messenger, it cannot be said that the rulings concerning things and actions are halal or haram from a Sharia standpoint, for no ruling exists at all in that state. Otherwise, we fall into contradiction. This contradiction becomes apparent when one claims, as some have, that the Hukum Sharia for a given matter, such as the hil, permissibility of an act, existed before the arrival of the Sharia. Yet at the same time, they assert that the Sharia is the sole originator of rulings. But if the Sharia had not yet been revealed, there would be no basis for any ruling. Thus, the ruling would be said to both exist and not exist at the same time, regarding one matter under the same conditions, and this is logically impossible. Rather, prior to the arrival of the messenger, a human being was free to act as he willed, without being bound by any ruling. There would be no liability before Allah until a messenger was sent to him. Only then would he be obligated to act in accordance with the divine rulings conveyed to him by the messenger, precisely as they were transmitted without addition or omission. This remains a condition for all people after the advent of Muhammad SAW. For the generality of the Quranic verses concerning ahkam indicate that reference must be made exclusively to the Sharia, and full adherence is required. As Allah says, وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَحْكُمْهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Whatever you may differ about is for Allah to judge, and that's 42:10. And if you're next verse, and if you're in dispute over any matter, refer it to Allah and the Messenger. If you truly believe in Allah and the last day, that is better and fairer in the end, and that's 459. Next verse, when Allah and His Messenger have decided on a matter that concerns them, it is not fitting for any believing man or woman to claim freedom of choice in that matter. Whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger is far astray, and that's Surah 33:36. Accordingly, the sovereignty authority al-Hakim is the Sharia, and there is no ruling before its arrival. It is the Shara alone that originates legal rulings upon its emergence. These rulings do not exist beforehand. They are non-existent and have no ontological reality prior to revelation. As for what a human being legislates for himself by his reason or according to what is termed natural law or natural rights, or based on his passions and desires, this is not considered shari, nor is it legally binding. It is merely non-obligation, meaning the absence of any Sharia ruling, and non-existence is not a thing in and of itself. The intellect is not a sovereign authority. That is, it does not legislate in an originating or constitutive capacity, neither before the arrival of revelation nor after, nor under any circumstance whatsoever. As for the intellect's ability to affirm the existence of Allah, to know that He is the absolute sovereign, worthy of obedience, and that a specific man is a truthful prophet sent by Allah and not a false claimant, and that such a prophet is therefore necessarily infallible, ma'soom, in what he conveys explicitly from Allah, and that truthfulness is good, falsehood is reprehensible, water is essential to life, and cold water is pleasing to the healthy, thirsty person. All of these are either rational propositions, logical axioms, or empirical perceptions. They are not ahkam sharia established by the Sharia in the sense of originating new laws. Therefore, such knowledge is subject to reason and sensory perception, both before and after revelation equally. Thus, the intellect has defined functions, among them rendering judgment on rational and sensory propositions, verifying the authenticity of transmission and narration, understanding texts and statements, whether religious or otherwise, and analyzing concepts and meaning, whether Sharia or not. In all this, the intellect sits sovereignly within its appointed domain, as honored by Allah, granted free operation by his permission and entrusted with that charge.
Mhm.
This same intellect concluded before the arrival of revelation that Allah's will cannot be known necessarily except through truthful revelation. It continues to affirm this after revelation, with no alteration, no addition, and no reduction. Hence, the claim made by some of the senior scholars that the intellect is the sovereign that appoints the Prophet ﷺ and then abdicates is not valid. Indeed, this is one of the grievous slips of scholars and a gross conceptual error, a sheer absurdity. The intellect was never a sovereign legislator in the detailed Sharia sense outlined above, nor did it appoint the prophets. Rather, the intellect merely recognized the truth of their persons, the substance of their call, and judged the truthfulness of their prophethood. It is Allah, glorified are his names and exalted are his attributes, who appointed them to the office of prophethood. And he is also the one who appointed the intellect to its specific role. Thus, the intellect remains in its divinely assigned function perpetually. It is the foundation of moral responsibility. It has not abdicated, nor should it, nor can it. It is legally impermissible for it to do so. Only the one who has debased his own intellect and abandoned it altogether from among those who disbelieve in Allah and his messengers, such as atheists, materialists, secularists, capitalists, socialists, polytheists, dualists, and Trinitarians, has cast the intellect aside. The true affront to the intellect and the cause of its disempowerment lies with those who, out of injustice, rebellion, and ingratitude towards Allah's bounty, have perverted or nullified its role. Among them are the innovators and deviants, the rigid imitators among Muslims, foremost among them today being the enemies of Allah from among the fuqaha as-salatin, government scholars, the arrogant pseudo-scholars, the stagnant conformists, the sycophants, and many among the fraudulent preachers or extremist renegades, particularly the followers of the Wahhabi sect, who falsely claim Salafiyah, among the followers of Ibn Bad, Ibn Uthaymeen, and Albani, and among the Madkhalis and Jamis such as Al-Fawzan, Al-Sadlan, and others of their ilk. The base, the superficial, the obscurantist, indeed the traitors and deceivers. And if you're in doubt concerning the accuracy of these descriptions, then examine their books, which they distribute freely, such as Obeying the Most Merciful through Obeying the Sultan. Qutbism is the real fitna, recognize it, as well as Al-Hakimiyya and the fitna of Takfir, and many others. Also consult their countless websites, which explicitly declare such positions as dividing Tawheed into a fourth category called Al-Hakimiyya is an invented innovation with no evidence. The idea of a fourth category of Tawheed was introduced by the Sururis and Qutbis, and the bid'ah of Al-Hakimiyya is a crime against the Muslim Ummah, and so forth. May Allah disgrace them, distance them, fight them, curse them, and eradicate them. Okay. So that concludes that chapter. So in conclusion, you were referring to the modern day Madkhalis producing this material purely to undermine Allah's sovereignty in effect. And no doubt, I'm sure that there's plenty more books being written since, and we have mouthpieces around today. Okay. And this subject, Hakimiyya, is expanded upon on a dedicated book as well, isn't it? Okay. Anything to add to that, Sheikh?
I think it's self-explanatory. If anyone has questions, we'll answer it, inshallah, later.
Cool. No problem. Okay. Proceeding to the next chapter, which is page 169, chapter 18. What was the reality of shirk for the nation of Lut, alayhi salam? Perhaps the best thing to conclude this present section is to revisit the previous statement that was made earlier in the present book from the chapter, which covered the misguided legal edict by the so-called Council of Senior Scholars from Saudi Arabia. Within that chapter, we stated that there is in fact an ugly ignorance concerning the nature and reality of the call that was made by the prophets. It would seem that the members of this council can only conceive of that prophetic call in a naive and superficial manner in their understanding. The call to worship alone without partner doesn't transcend the realms of rituals or ritualistic actions, being therefore limited to only matters such as prayer, sacrificial offerings, lighting candles, etc. That is a manifest lie, an evil slur which leveled by their malignant tongues against the truth of the message and call. In particular, it overlooks the nature of the call made by the Prophet Lut alayhi salam. One may ask, where was the issue of bowing or prostration mentioned during that narrative? In fact, the nature of his call was foremost one that centered upon the abandonment of istihlal, taking that which is prohibited and making it lawful, concerning al-fawahish, indecencies, and al-munkarat, evil matters. There isn't any reference or mention of statues, idols, or prostration to a deity besides Allah or beseeching one. It would only be in the retarded mindset of the council to claim that they did not perceive divinity other than Allah except within a very limited sense. Following on from this, by the grace of Allah, our attention was directed to reviewing in entirety what has been mentioned concerning Lut and his people, as is found in the book, in the order presented in the noble book. This is comprised into 10 sections. First group of verses. We sent Lot to his people. How can you practice this outrage? No one in the world has outdone you in this. You lust after men rather than women. You transgress all bounds. The only response his people gave was to say to one another, drive them out of your town. These men want to keep themselves chaste. We saved him and his kingship, apart from his wife who stayed behind, and we showered upon the rest of them a rain of destruction. See the fate of the evildoers. And that's Surah 7, verses 80 to 84. The second group of verses. And when our messengers came to Lut, he was anxious for them, feeling powerless to protect them, and said, this is a truly terrible day. His people came rushing towards him. They used to commit foul deeds. He said, my people, here are my daughters. They are more wholesome for you. So have some fear of Allah and do not disgrace me with my guests. Is there not a single right-minded man among you? They said, you know very well that we have no right to your daughters. You know very well what we want. He said, if only I had strength to stop you or could rely on strong support. They, the messengers, said, Lot, we are your Lord's messengers. They will not reach you. Leave with your household in the dead of night, and let none of you turn back. Only your wife will suffer the fate that befalls the others. Their appointed time is the morning not near. And so, when what we had ordained came about, we turned their town upside down and rained down stones of baked clay on it, layer upon layer, marked from your Lord. It is not far from the evildoers. And that's Surah 11, 77 to 83. The third group of verses, he said, who but the misguided despair of the mercy of their Lord? And then asked, messengers, what is your errand? They replied, we have been sent to a people who are guilty, but we shall save the household of Lut, all except his wife. We have decreed that she will be one of those who stay behind. When the messengers came to the household of Lut, he said, you are strangers. They said, we have brought you what they said would never happen. We have brought you the truth. We speak truly, so leave in the dead of the night with your household and walk behind them. Let none of you look back. Go where you are commanded. We made this decree known to him. The last remnants of those people would be wiped out in the morning. The people of the town came along, reveling, and he told them, these are my guests. Do not disgrace me. Fear Allah and do not shame me. They answered, have we not told you not to interfere between us and anyone else? He said, my daughters are here. If you must, by your prophet, they wandered in their wild intoxication, and the blast overtook them at sunrise. We turned their city upside down and rained on them a shower of clay stones. There truly is a sign in this for those who can learn. It is still there on the highway. There truly is a sign in this for those who believe. And that's Surah 56-77. Next verse. We gave Lot sound judgment and knowledge and saved him from the community who practiced obscenities. They were shameless people who broke Allah's law. We admitted him to our mercy. He was a righteous man. And that's Surah 21:74-75. The fifth group of verses. The people of Lot too called the messengers liars. Their brother Lot said to them, will you not be mindful of Allah? I am a faithful messenger to you. Be mindful of Allah and obey me. I ask no reward from you, for my only reward is with the Lord of the worlds. Must you, unlike other people, lust after males and abandon the wives that Allah has created for you? You are exceeding all bounds. But they replied, Lot, if you do not stop this, you will be driven away. So he said, I loathe what you do. Lord, save me and my family from what they are doing. We saved him and all his family, except for an old woman who stayed behind. Then we destroyed the others and poured a rain of destruction down upon them. How dreadful that rain was for those who had not been forewarned. There truly is a sign in this, though most of them will not believe. Your Lord alone is the mighty, the merciful. And that's 26:160-175. The sixth group of verses. We also sent Lot to his people. He said to them, how can you commit this outrage with your eyes wide open? How can you lust after men instead of women? What fools you are. The only answer his people gave was to say, expel Lot's followers from your town. These men mean to stay chaste. We saved him and his family except for his wife. We made her stay behind and we brought rain down on them. How dreadful that rain was for those who had been warned. Say, Prophet, praise be to Allah and peace on the servants he has chosen. Who is better, Allah or those they set up as partners with him? Who created the heavens and the earth, who sends down water from the sky for you, with which we cause gardens of delight to grow. You have no power to make the trees grow in them. Is it another God besides Allah? No, but they are people who take others to be equal with Allah. Who is it that made the earth as a stable place to live? Who made rivers flow through it? Who set immovable mountains on it and created a barrier between the fresh and salt water? Is it another God besides Allah? And that's Surah 27:54-58. No, but most of them do not know. Who is it that answered the distressed when they call upon him? Who removes their suffering? Who makes you successors in the earth? Is it another God besides Allah? Little notice you take. Who is it that guides you through the darkness on land and sea? Who sends the winds of heralds of good news before his mercy? Is it another God beside Allah? Allah is far above the partners they put beside him. Who is it that created life and reproduces it? Who is it that gives you provision from the heavens and the earth? Is it another God besides Allah? Say, show me your evidence if what you say is true. Say, no one in the heavens or on earth knows the unseen except Allah. They do not know when they will be raised from the dead. Their knowledge cannot comprehend the hereafter. They are in doubt about it. They are blind to it. So the disbelievers say, what, when we and our forefathers have become dust, shall we be brought back to life again? We have heard such promises before, and so did our forefathers. These are ancient fables. Prophets say, travel through the earth and see how the evildoers ended up. Now, Surah 27:59-69. Seventh group of verses, and Lot, when he said to his people, you practice outrageous acts that no people before you have ever committed. How can you lust after men, waylay travelers, and commit evil in your gatherings? The only answer his people gave was, bring God's punishment down on us if what you say is true. So he prayed, my Lord, help me against these people who spread corruption. When our messengers brought the good news of the birth of a son to Abraham, they told him, we are about to destroy the people of that town. They are evildoers. Abraham said, but Lot lives there. They answered, we know who lives there better than you do. We shall save him and his household except for his wife. She will be one of those who stayed behind. When our messengers came to Lot, he was troubled and distressed on their account. They said, have no fear or grief. We shall certainly save you and your household except for your wife. She will be one of those who stayed behind. And we shall send a punishment from heaven down on the people of this town because they violate God's order. We left some of the towns there as a clear sign for those who use their reason. And that's Surah 29, 28 to 35. Eighth group of verses. The people of Lut rejected the warnings. We released a stone-bearing wind against them, all except the family of Lot. We saved them before dawn as a favor from us. This is how we reward the thankful. He warned them of our onslaught, but they dismissed the warning. They even demanded his guests from him. So we sealed their eyes. Taste my terrible punishment and the fulfillment of my warnings. And early in the morning, a punishment seized them that still remains. Taste my terrible punishment and the fulfillment of my warnings. We have made it easy to learn lessons from the Quran. Will anyone take heed? The people of Pharaoh also received warnings. They rejected all our signs, so we seized them with all our might and power. Are your disbelievers any better than these? Were you given an exemption in the scripture? Do they perhaps say, we are a great army and we shall be victorious? Their forces will be routed and they will turn tail and flee. But the hour is their appointed time. The hour is more severe and bitter. And that's Surah 54, 33 to 46. Ninth batch of verse. Here the mention of the Prophet Lut alayhi salam comes within the context, has come within the context, emphasizing his message, coupled with a group of messengers. Additionally, the torment and destruction of these people is also highlighted. My people, do not let your opposition to me bring upon you a similar fate to the people of Noah, or Hud, or Salih. The people of Lut are not far away from you. Ask forgiveness from your Lord and turn to him in repentance. My Lord is merciful and most giving. And that's Surah 11, 89 to 90. Last group of verses. Allah the Almighty and Exalted says, if they reject you, prophets, so did the people of Noah before them, and those of Ad, Thamud, Abraham, Lot, Midian. Moses too was called a liar. I gave the disbelievers time, but in the end I punished them. How I condemned them. How many towns steeped in wrongdoing we have destroyed and left in total ruin. How many deserted wells, how many lofty palaces. And that's Surah 22, 42 to 45. Lot was also one of the messengers. We saved him and his family, except for an old woman who stayed behind. And that's Surah 37, 133 to 135. Nothing is mentioned in the aforesaid, so this is your commentary. Nothing is mentioned in the aforesaid verses except in relation to al-fawahish, the indecencies, that of lusting after men instead of women. There is only the addition that is made in chapter 29, Surah Al-Ankabut, namely that of two crimes: committing highway robbery and undertaking evil deeds in their assemblies or councils. Indeed, nothing is to be found that mentions the wording of deities, gods, lords, statues, or even idols. Neither is there any controversy in relation to the bodily resurrection, life after death, and accountability. And there isn't any wording that details any discussion concerning the essence of Allah in either his nature or attributes. Among the exegetes of the previous generations, there is, however, disagreement about the precise meaning of the phrases used, wayfarer travelers, and commit evil in your gatherings. Tafsir upon 2929. Imam al-Muwardi lucidly presented the varying viewpoints regarding the tafsir of the verse. He, the Exalted, said, how can you lust after men, which is having intercourse with men, and to waylay travelers? In that there are three viewpoints. The first, that it relates to cutting the highway path of the traveler. It was said by Ibn Zayd. Secondly, that they lusted for abominations with men, cutting the people from traveling, cautioning about their abominable acts. That was the judgment of Ibn Shajara. Thirdly, it is the cutting off of offspring from women unto men. Ibn Wahab said, seeking refuge from women unto men, and commit evil in your gatherings, which is in their evil assemblies. Of this, there are four viewpoints. Firstly, it is that they were breaking wind in their assemblies, as said by Aisha. May Allah be pleased with her. Secondly, they were taking people along the way and mocking them, as reported by Hani from the Prophet ﷺ. Thirdly, they were uh, gathering upon men in their assemblies, as reported by Mansur from Mujahid. Fourthly, it is whistling, playing in the bath, throwing each other the juhlahik, sihak, and the accompaniment of singing slaves in the assembly gathering, as reported by Al-Hakim and Mujahid. The statement of Imam Mawardi about cutting the pathway in the first viewpoint, where it was stated that it relates to cutting the highway pathway of the traveler, it was said by Ibn Zayd. Yet that doesn't appear correct, because it would make sense to cut off a road in the context of looting and so on, not merely the act itself. In fact, this is the viewpoint of Ibn Zayd, as brought forth by the exegete Imam al-Tabari. He said, Ibn Zayd said, concerning where he said cutting off the highway, he said as-sabil, meaning the road, which is the way of the traveler. They would intercept him and commit that indecent deed upon him. Therefore, the three viewpoints, all of which increased and compounded their major crimes, and are added to that of entering men from behind. As for what has been said of the second viewpoint in relation to the verse, and commit evil in your gatherings, suggested by Imam al-Tabari by way of the report of Abu Salih Batham, the client of Hani, and that being reported from the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Salih Batham and the client of Hani is not a strong channel, being singular and specifically discreet to that of Hani. He, having grown up in her household, and led him to being a student of knowledge. The fourth viewpoint is completely fallen, having a significant lacuna. Such pathways leading to either Mujahid or Ibn Abbas are broken chain reports, or those which are containing narrators charged with lying and the rejected. The first viewpoint was that from the mother of the believers, Aisha radiallahu anha. Breaking wind in assemblies is indeed ugly, no doubt, but that is not from amongst the noxious major sins. That would have been addressed in the call by the Prophet by the Prophet Allah alayhi salam. When taking all possibilities, foundations, and matters into consideration, it would appear that the third viewpoint may be the most plausible, namely that they were gathering upon men in their assemblies publicly. That would be in addition to the major crime that they were committing, which was approaching men from behind, and Allah knows best. Despite the various interpretations that are offered concerning the phrase that Allah used, cutting off the highway, and also commit evil in your gatherings, these are not critical to the overall point or main thrust of the argument presented here. It may be of use to mention some of the reported narrations at this juncture to provide as full an account as possible. Writing in his tafsir, Jami al-Bayan, Imam al-Tabari sets out the following. The Almighty, exalted in his remembrance, says regarding what Lut alayhi salam said to his people, how can you, O people, lost after men, in their behind cutting off the highway, saying cutting the travelers and subjecting to the acts that are filthy, that it was mentioned about them that they were doing these acts with those travelers who passed by as they were strangers to their land. Those who said that, Yunus narrated to me, he said Ibn Wahb reported to us, he said Ibn Zayd said in relation to the verse, cutting off the highway, he said as-sabil, meaning the road, which is the way of the traveler. When the traveler, the son of the road, passed by them, they would block the road and perform with him that filthy deed. Regarding the statement, and commit evil in your gatherings, there is disagreement among the people of interpretation regarding what this evil that Allah mentioned was, that was being undertaken in their assemblies. Some of them said that it was because they used to break wind in their assemblies. Of those who mentioned that, Abdurrahman al-Aswad narrated to me, he said Muhammad ibn Rabi' narrated to us, he said Rawh ibn Utayfa al-Thaqafi narrated to us from Amr ibn Mus'ab, from Urwa ibn Zubair, from Aisha anha, regarding the statement, and commit evil in your gatherings. She said breaking wind. At Tabari, others said they would mock at those that passed by, Of those who mentioned that, Abu Qurayb and Ibn Waqi narrated to us, they said Abu Usama narrated to us from Khatim ibn Abi Saghira, from Simak ibn Harb, from Abu Salih, from Hani. She said, I asked the Prophet ﷺ regarding the statement, commit evil in your gatherings. He said they would cut off wayfarers and mock them, and that was the evil they committed. Rabi' narrated to us, he said Asad narrated to us, Abu Usama narrated to us with a similar channel from the Prophet ﷺ. Ahmad ibn Abda ad-Dabi narrated to us, he said Sulaim ibn Akhtar narrated to us, he said Abu Yunus al-Qushayri narrated to us from Simak ibn Harb from Abu Salih, Mawla of Hani, that Hani asked about this verse, commit evil in your gathering. So she said, I asked the Messenger of Allah ﷺ about it, and he said they used to cut off wayfarers and mock them. Ibn Humayd narrated to us, he said, Yahya ibn Wadih narrated to us, he said, Umar ibn Abi Zaida narrated to us, he said, I heard Ikramah saying in relation to the verse, commit evil in your gatherings. It means that they used to molest wayfarers, shortening those who passed by them. Ibn Waqi' narrated to us, he said, my father narrated to me from Umar ibn Abi Zayda. He said, I heard Ikramah said al-hadaf. Musa narrated to us, hadaf, that's fa, isn't it? Hadaf, that's a fa, isn't it?
No, hadaf is stoning the people.
Oh, okay.
And so pelting people when they pass.
Okay.
So harassing people by stoning and by insulting.
Okay. Musa narrated to us, he said Amr reported to us, he said Asbat narrated to us from As-Suddi, and commit evil in your gatherings. He said it means everyone who passed by them, they intercepted, and it is the munkar, evil. Rabbi.
They rape them, yeah. Intercept the passerby and rape them, the foreigners who are passing unaware about this location. They intercept them, and if they are good looking, they rape them.
Deliverance. Rabi narrated to us, he said, Asad narrated to us, he said, Sa'id ibn Zayd narrated to us, he said, Hatim ibn Abi Saghira narrated to us, he said, Simak ibn Harb narrated to us from Badam, Abu Salih, Mawla of Hani, from Hani, she asked, I asked the Messenger of Allah ﷺ about this verse, commit evil in your gatherings. He said they would sit by the road, throwing stones at passers-by and mocking them. At Tabari, some have said it was the performance of obscenities and abominations, al-fahisha in their assemblies, of those who mentioned that. Ibn Waqi narrated to us, he said, Jarir narrated to us from Mansur, from Mujahid, he said they would come to each other in their assemblies, have intercourse with one another, hence the meaning where he said, commit evil in your gatherings. Sulaim ibn Abdul Jabbar narrated to us, he said, Thabit ibn Muhammad al-Laythi narrated to us, he said, Fudil ibn Ayyad narrated to us from Mansur ibn al-Tamir, Mujahid, in relation to the verse, commit evil in your gatherings. He said they were gathered together for that in their assemblies. Ibn Humayd narrated to us, he said, Hakam narrated to us from Amr, from Mansur, from Mujahid, regarding the verse, commit evil in your gatherings. He said they would come to each other in their assemblies, having intercourse with one another. Ibn Waqi narrated to us, he said, my father narrated to me from Sufyan, from Mansur, from Mujahid, he said they were gathering upon men in their assemblies for intercourse. Muhammad ibn Amr narrated to me, he said, Abu Asim narrated to us, he said, Isa narrated to us, and Al-Haris narrated to me, he said, Al-Hasan narrated to us, he said, Warqa narrated to us, all of them from Ibn Abi Najih, from Mujahid, regarding the verse, commit evil in your gatherings. He said the assemblies and the evil were their intercourse with murder. Bishr narrated to us, he said, Yazid narrated to us, he said, Sa'id narrated to us from Qatada, regarding the verse, commit evil in your gatherings. He said it means they used to commit the lewdness of fahisha in their meetings. Yunus narrated to me, he said, Ibn Wahab reported to us, he said, Ibn Zayd said in relation to the verse, commit evil in your gatherings. He said their meetings were the assemblies and the abomination, filth, khabith, was their disgusting act which they would perform. They would accost the rider and seize him and mount him. And Ibn Zayd read, "How can you commit this outrage with your eyes wide open?" That's 2754. And he said, "How can you practice this outrage? No one in the world has done this, has outdone you in this." That's 780. Ali narrated to me, he said, Abu Salih narrated to us, he said, Muawiyah narrated to me from Ibn Abbas regarding the verse, "Commit evil in your gatherings," he said, "in their assemblies." At-Tabari, the first of these statements is the correct view. The ones who said it means said that it means in their assemblies they used to cut anyone who passed them and mock them. This is what has been mentioned from the channels reported from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Other accounts in the tafsir literature. The following has been cited in the tafsir of Abdul Razak. Abdul Razak narrated to us, he said, Fudail reported to us from Mansur, from Mujahid, regarding where he, the Almighty, said, "And commit evil in your gatherings." He said they used to have intercourse with each other in the gatherings. Appearing in the Tafsir of Mujahid, there is the following. Abdurrahman reports Ibrahim narrated to us, from Adam narrated to us, Waraqa narrated to us from Ibn Abi Najih from Mujahid regarding the verse, "Commit evil in your gatherings." He said, meaning in your councils, assemblies, and the evil they came upon them, i.e. had intercourse with them. In the Tafsir of Muqatil Ibn Sulaiman, there is "commit evil in your gatherings," meaning in the assemblies, the evil, which is to say, the throwing of stones. Next, the following, cited in the Tafsir of Ibn Abi Hatim, Abu Sa'id narrated to us, Osama narrated to us from Hatim ibn Abi Saghira, from Samak ibn Harb, from Abu Salih, from Hani, daughter of Abu Talib. She said, "I asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about his statement, "and commit evil in your gatherings." He said they would throw pebbles at the people on the roadside and make a mockery of them. That tradition is reported quite widely across various collections. 4 reports are recited in the Tafsir of Ibn Abi Hatim, which are of note. My father narrated to me, Muhammad ibn Isa at-Taba'ah narrated to us, Al-Qasim ibn Malik narrated to us, Rawh ibn Atiyah ibn Abi Sufyan al-Thaqafi narrated to us from Umar ibn Mus'ab ibn al-Zubair, from Urwa from Aisha, regarding where he says, "And commit evil in your gatherings." She said it means flatulence, breaking wind. Ali ibn Hussein narrated to us, Bukhir ibn Khalaf narrated to us, Ibn Abi Uwais narrated to us, my father narrated to me from Zayd ibn Bakr al-Laythi. He said, "I asked Qasim ibn Muhammad about the statement of Allah, "And commit evil in your gatherings." What was that evil? He said they used to break wind in their gatherings, fighting upon one another. And Nadi means the gatherings. One second. Regarding this particular isnad, it is sorry, 1 second, there's more. Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Ahmashi narrated to us, Waqi narrated to us from Sufyan, from Mansur, from Mujahid regarding the verse, "And commit evil in their gatherings." They were having intercourse with men in their assemblies. Al-Hasan ibn Arafah narrated to us, Muhammad ibn Kathir narrated to us from Umru ibn Qais, from Al-Hakim, from Mujahid regarding the verse, "And commit evil in your gatherings." He said it is whistling, playing in the bath, and play with julahik, and the unbuttoning of their clothes. Regarding this particular isnad, it is munqati. All that's from Muhammad ibn Kathir ibn Abi Ata al-Thaqafi, and Muhammad ibn Kathir al-Abdi is not from Amr ibn Qais because they did not meet him. Hence the matan is munkar and batil. Analysis. Given the foregoing discussion and numerous channels presented, one should note that none of these can be attributed directly to the Prophet Lut alayhi salam. More importantly, aside from the truncated channels, there is no mention whatsoever of deities, gods, statues, idols or any form of controversy regarding resurrection, etc. Not a single word or letter. Similarly, that which is from the channels that are maqtu', severed channels, can in no way detract from the status which Lut alayhi salam, from the status, this is which Lut alayhi salam says, I guess. Indeed, he was from among the messengers of Allah messenger of which Allah has given a high status among the nations. He, the exalted and majestic, says, "We sent a messenger to every community, saying, worship Allah and shun gods, false gods. Among them were some were guided. Among them were some guided. Allah guided. Misguidance took hold of others." That's Surah 1636. So travel through the earth and see what was the faith of those who denied the truth. Next verse, we never sent any messenger before you, Muhammad, without revealing to him, there is no God but me, so serve me. And that's 21:25. 1 second. The word formulation here is instructive, as underscored in the text. It carries a linguistic form of restriction, sigat hasr. The messenger only being sent with this, there is no God but me, so serve me. Necessity dictates that the statement would therefore be that Allah has declared prohibited entering men from behind, so do not undertake it. Painted from the picture of his saying, worship Allah and shun false gods. Thus, for the people of Lut, making illicit entering from a man from behind a matter of istihlal by worshipping the Tawhut and the abandonment of worshipping Allah. By necessity, it must be shirk, polytheism. With that in tandem, bright like the burning sun, we turn to a comment that was made by Imam al-Razi in the following text, as has been reported in Tafsir al-Razi. And here are several issues. Firstly, Ibrahim said to his people, worship Allah. And there he said about Lut, here he said about Lut, that he said to his people, you commit fahisha, obscenities, abominations. Thus we say with what Allah mentioned to Lut when he mentioned Ibrahim. Lut, who was in the time of Ibrahim alayhi did not mention about Lut, that he commanded his people to Tawheed, even though the messenger is duty bound to convey that. Did not mention about Lut that he commanded his people to Tawheed, even though the messenger is duty bound to convey that. So we say the narrative of Lut, other than it is here, Allah mentioned the matter succinctly and limited it to what was specific to Lut, namely the prevention of fahisha, and didn't mention about the command to Tawheed. Although he said in another place that worship Allah, you have no God other than him. That's 759, because that message was brought by Ibrahim, who preceded him, his mission being specifically that, while Lut proclaimed that on Ibrahim's behalf. Concerning the prohibition relating to the acts undertaken by the people of Lut, that was specifically by way of Lut. But Ibrahim did not appear with that in his time and didn't prevent his people from doing so. He mentioned each of them in what was specific to him and preceding him by others. In the aforementioned quote, we see Imam al-Razi referring to the verse which mentioned worship Allah. You have no God other than him. If the pronoun referred to he said relates to Lut, that is a manifest error. The reason being, from the full context of the verse, that is the wording as it relates to the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, together with other similar clear verses elsewhere referring to other prophets besides that of Lut, it is true that the Quran doesn't mention the command to Tawheed, according to Al-Razi, yet that seems to be in a superficial sense. In other words, with the explicit linkage to the mention of gods, statues, monuments, or the like, though the messenger is duty bound to convey that. The reference that is made to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, peace be upon him, other than a desperate attempt to try and solve what appeared as a difficult problem and dilemma. Yet Ibrahim wasn't sent as a messenger to the people of Lut originally. That much is clear from the established narrative. Even if that was to be argued, that he was in fact sent to them first, and then they became involved in the matter of istihlal after he had departed, it would still leave us in much the same position. This was a matter of shirk and the worship of Taghut. That is because Allah then sent them another messenger, namely Lut, and being from among the noble prophets, was bound to say unto them, worship Allah and disavow the Taghut. the narrative as found in the previous scriptures. Following this, we have also undertaken to examine how this narrative is expressed in the older books for the sake of completeness, although we would hasten to add that the matter is abundantly clear. Praise be to Allah. The older works are approached, as always, with a degree of caution because it cannot be said that they are completely free from tampering or distortion from the rabbis, monks, and scribes. Despite this, they are still the best additional source material that is currently available. We have found in the Old Testament, which includes the Torah as well as other books, mention made of many old towns and cities of the Holy Land of Palestine and its environs. There is also some additional references concerning the idolatry of the time. There isn't, though, any mention contained therein of the order of invitation of Ibrahim or him being sent to the people of Lut. This is despite the extensive journey that Ibrahim undertook from the arrival in Egypt and repeated journeys to the Arabian Peninsula. No further details are mentioned about the people of Lut, other than the issue of lusting after men, which the Quran also states. Turning to the text now themselves, the following has been set out in the book of Genesis in chapters 13 and 14 regarding the return of Ibrahim from Egypt. Abraham and Lot separate. So Abraham went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot went with him. Abraham had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and gold. From the Negev, he went from place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There Abraham called on the name of the Lord, and Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, but the land could not support them while they stayed together, but for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. And quarreling arose between Abraham's herders and Lot's. The Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land at that time. So Abraham said to Lot, "Let's not have any quarreling between me and you." Do you think it's worth reading it out, or should you just leave it to the reader?
Mhm.
Is it worth reading it? It's just the Bible, isn't it? It's just
just a story. That's again. There's no idols. That's the main point. All of these, that's especially the message of Lot is there's no idols, no classical Tawheed issues. For the Wahhabi understand the Tawheed, it's purely istihlal. And the story is that they split, and then Ibrahim offered him choose one of these lands. Lot decided to choose the area around Sodom and Gomorrah because it was more fertile and nicer, and Ibrahim stayed more in the desert side. And he went there, and then he would appoint a messenger to the people of Lut. And there's no mention of idols, nothing whatsoever. That's the main focus of the story. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to skip it just so if the reader wants to read it, pages.
Can read the story. Yeah,
Yes,
interesting story. Also, how he was taken captive, and Ibrahim liberated him by fighting against 4 kings and so on. Very interesting story.
So that finishes at page 188. So I'll just go to your commentary then. Consider the mention of this truthful, just king, Melchizedek, king of Salem. Just chapter 4, verse 18, which is the same old name that was given to Beit al-Maqdis, Jerusalem, and the priest of the temple, the
city of peace, Salem,
and the priest of the temple,
Jerusalem,
and the priest of the temple, the servant of Allah, to whom Ibrahim gave 10 of the spoils of Zakat and received the blessing. Precisely who was he? What was his name? We do not know for certain, but perhaps it is Idris, Enoch, who was mentioned only twice in the Quran. Mentioned too in the Quran, the story of Idris. He was a man of truth, a prophet. That's 1956. And remember, Ismail, Idris, and Zulkifl, they were all steadfast, and that's 2185. Note also this featured characteristic and attribute that's given a man of truth is a prophet. Ibrahim is the only one to be given that designation in the Quran, as well as the other revealed books of Allah, the Quran being the final revelation. Mentioned too in the Quran, the story of Abraham, he was a man of truth, a prophet. That is from Surah 1941. Note is also made of his exemplary dealings with the king of Sodom, refusing to take any form of grant, even though he had spoils obtained by the sword. The glory of Al-Iman thus resides with Ibrahim. We beseech Allah to send prayers upon him and to his family. Indeed, among all creations, He was glorious and praiseworthy. Sodom and Gomorrah. In the previous text, it was stated that the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against their Lord. A further explanation also given in the story concerning the arrival of the angels to the village of Luz after passing by Abraham. The text, well, the long text from the Bible. So I'm going to skip that again, so you can read it yourselves from page 189 to 191. They talk about fleeing destruction of Gomorrah. So I'll skip to the concluding remarks. After perusing all of the above, one can indeed see some of the details that are provided are not of great significance. What is significant is that there is no mention of gods, statues, monuments, or idols in relation to the people of Lut. Consequently, it must be said that what the people of Lut were involved in relation to shirk and kufr was only that relating to istihlal of al-fahisha, and perhaps also istihlal for the other crimes that were also mentioned.
Istihlal, not any idols or anything like that.
The matter of their shirk was none other than that relating to hakimiyah and nothing else. Giving the compelling weight of overall evidence, it cannot be said that it was otherwise. There are a couple of small remaining matters to conclude with, one of which relates to an observation regarding the mention of those from Lut's relatives who didn't heed the warning of impending destruction that he gave, thinking that it was but a joke. Perhaps this helps to shed some additional light upon the matter of Lut's spouse, where Allah the Exalted and Majestic stated, except for an old woman who stayed behind. And that's 1 second, yeah, 1 second. Judging from the apparent, it would appear that she was originally from the filthy people of the town, and Allah only knows best. Finally, there is the issue of what was befitting that was mentioned here originally. If I had not heard it directly in an address of one individual affiliated with Ilm Sharia, it was alleged that the acts of the people of Lut is itself an act of kufr, although different from that of zina. The point, however, is terribly mistaken and a clear misreading of the language used in the actual Quranic text. What is correct is that the shirk and kufr of the people of Lut alayhi salam related to the matter of istihlal of this act. That much is clearly shown.
Not just the act itself, it's ihlal of the act.
That much is clearly shown by their reported words when Lut offered his daughters instead. They said, "You know very well that we have no right to your daughters. You know very well what we want." So in other words, what this means that they believe that they had the right to two guests that had come to Lut.
They have the right to commit homosexuality. That's it. They regard it as permissible for them. That's istihlal.
Expressed differently, that this was their right, and what is right, haqq, is necessarily deemed valid and lawful, halal in the viewpoint of the beholder. I mean, haqq. Okay, so that concludes this chapter, and that verse was 1179. So I don't want to go to the next chapter because this is an entire separate part. But anything to add to this?
No, it's just the story of Lot is only istihlal. There's nothing, no idols, no banners, no celebrations, centers, nothing like that. It's just purely istihlal.
And the person advanced a view that merely doing the permitted action was the cause of condemnation.
No, one person said that is the homosexuality itself is the act of kufr. No, it's not.
And how did they come to that conclusion? Just from
ask them. Because he got squeezed. He doesn't know how to get out of it. No. It's ihlal.
Was that enough attempt by the person to try to downplay the hakimiyah or something?
I don't know what was his motivation. It's just some people are just they don't use their brain properly. This is so severe that this is the level of kufr. Nowhere in the As a matter of fact, zina is more severe than homosexuality. It's also a joke. If you get all the evidences, it's barely comparable. It's very comparable. Zina is more strict, is prohibited, and more. So murder is more even worse. So, and none of them is classified as an act of kufr itself, except in few instances. So that's all nonsense. But the issue is not that that act itself is the act of kufr. The issue is that there was mention of idols, multiple gods, high places, all of these things.
Okay, far away, guys. Got some questions? Far away.
Yeah.
Islam professor. So I'm just trying to understand. So they had they believed in one God, but they.
It seems to be. It's not mentioned. They have no other deities and so on. It seems to be. But they themselves to make istihlal.
But when you say istihlal according to what Sharia? Because they're not. Who Sharia?
They were on the Sharia before, and they declared that to be halal for themselves. They changed the Sharia.
But we don't know who Sharia they were on.
The Sharia before. Maybe the Sharia of Melchizedek, of Idris, or of Ibrahim before. We don't know. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It was a Sharia. It doesn't matter. Quran is not about who Sharia is. The Sharia maybe of who will be. Maybe of Thamud.
Yeah, no, it just helps me characterize that, understand the narrative better. Okay,
maybe,
I get it now.
The Sharia of Thamud. So they near to the Thamud area. The end tip of the Dead Sea, yeah. And Thamud is just 405 kilometers south of that. And the time of Ibrahim, meaning Thamud was finished and expired maybe 300, 400 years before. So there was a valid Sharia. Besides, in time of Ibrahim, the prophet of Shaykh called Idris, Melchizedek, was in Beit al-Maqdis, and he was high ranking, so that Ibrahim even gave him his spoil of war and got blessed from him. So at his time, he was more high ranking than Ibrahim. So any Sharia, we don't need to bother with Sharia. But clearly there was a Sharia and they made istihlal.
Where is that Ibrahim gave his spoils of war to?
In the Old Testament, read the story there.
The Old Testament.
Yeah. After defeating the kings who abducted by Lot.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it's not relevant to Sharia, but there was a Sharia and they made istihlal.
So I just need some clarity. So with the prophets came, it was to warn the people, but was it specifically because they did istihlal or they perverted?
Read the ayahs. We just read all of them.
Oh no, I meant is there examples where Allah doesn't? Because from what I've understood from reading the Quran.
No. Read the Quran. All the other prophets they mention idols except for Lut. Read the story of Ibrahim. Read the story of Muhammad as-salam. Lat, Uzza, etc. If there's anything in the story of Lot of any other deity or any in a narrow sense, no.
Just to clarify, so it wasn't just in the other stories there are idols, but Allah also mentions their specific crime for each nation. What I'm trying to understand.
Additionally, but they mention other idols.
What I'm trying to understand is, did they do in part they did kufr on two levels. They denied Allah's oneness, and they also denied his sovereignty in that they justified
as a footnote. This will become then a footnote. If you have other deity, خلاص. And explicitly mentioned one, that's خلاص. There's no single sovereign then.
Yeah. And the other question is, with the mention that they justified it, is that an indication that other nations also had this problem of homosexuality and whatnot?
We don't know. It's irrelevant. It's not the point to argue here is that Hakimiyya alone is full Tawheed. That's the point. It's not like the Wahhabi claim it is another part is extra Tawheed. No, it's not extra. It's the full Tawheed is Hakimiyya. Hakimiyya is the full Tawheed. That's the point to be stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the point. No other point is stressed there. Because they were spreading recently, like what's it, Suhaib Hassan here in London, asking the Council of Serious Scholars. And in our time, some people are talking about Hakimiyya as a fourth branch of Tawheed, beside Uluhiyya, Rububiyyah, and so on. The classical three, Trinity of Ibn Abdul Wahhab, and are we have to add fourth section of Tawheed? And they answer, no, this is an ignorant guy. He doesn't know. Hakimiyya is under uluhiyya. And another answer, someone else says is under rububiyya. They don't know under which it comes. It should not be a new branch. It's the same, it's a part of the previous ones. At least they are better in that point. Now, Madkhali say, no, it is actually separate completely. There's a book called Tawheed أولا ثم الحاكمية, responding to the so-called Qutbi, the people following Sayyid Qutb. Establish Tawheed first, then talk about Hakimiyya, which is all nonsense. That's the purpose of the whole discussion here, is to show that this is nonsensical in every possible ground. Yeah, that's the purpose. The whole purpose is that these three divisions is nonsensical anyway. What was really is that uluhiyya is exclusive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which entails rububiyya, entails hakimiyya, all of that is part of it by necessity. That's the whole purpose of the book. But their division is nonsensical, does not make any sense. Their division is nonsensical, it is absurd. And the absurdity appears clear when we discussed about shirk al-Arab. Said al-Arab did not have shirk in rububiyya, they have shirk in uluhiyya, which is utter absurd, utter nonsense. Yeah, that's the point. Not the point that says a way to organize it, which subtitle and title belongs to. It's genuinely Tawheed. So that someone say, write a book that don't campaign for Hakimiyya, like addressing some Ikhwani and some jihadi and so on. Don't fight for Hakimiyya. Fight for Tawheed, meaning demolishing graves and removing trees and idols and things like that. That's what they call Tawheed. That's all Tawheed for them. Hakimiyya is something extra. And the title of the book is clear. Tawheed أولا ثم Hakimiyya. First Tawheed, then Hakimiyya. No. Tawheed and Hakimiyya is one system. The moment you put this one, the other one is included. You put this one, the other one is included automatically. Good? That's the main purpose of the discussion. The purpose of the book was to show that this division in three things is nonsense, is nonsensical. And that there is nothing called shirk al-qubur. This does not exist. It's just a nonsense. It's just of the sick imagination. That's it. Whole definition of uluhiyya is wrong. That's it. Show this completely invalid. I have to start from elsewhere. Okay, that's it. Okay. What else is
There's a quick question. Someone said that. Could you refute the claims of modern homosexual advocates who say that the wrong deal of the people of Lut was simply when homosexual relations was not consensual? So they argue it's just it being forced rather than consensual. They
are very clear. They are very clear. They do fahisha. That's the consensual one. They intercept people in highways and drop them by force. That's not consensual. And they do it in public, enjoying it publicly in their gathering, if you interpret it this way. So the consensual, non-consensual. This is an attempt to get away. No. Besides, there are many obviously ahadith and other things which clearly shows that it is a fahisha, consensual or not. Let's try to make it like that. No. And if you look at, for example, zina is the one non-consensual. The highway, cutting the highway is an extra crime. It's not only doing the fahisha, but it is doing it by force. That will be an act of war, an addition. The same with rape. Raping a woman, consensual is zina. By force, it's an act of war, with mandatory death sentence and very complicated issue there, the detail of punishment and so on, but it's definite. So this argument has no standing, just from their imagination. So that they do it in their public gathering, that must be consensual. And the other one is in addition there, they even cut the highways for unwary people who have no idea what will happen, and then they intercept them and force them, and then they let them go. that's committing two acts: the using force for that, that's the act of war, and the act itself, which is prohibited. So double. All the bigger one is intercepting the way and cutting the road. That's the bigger one. That's the major crime, much bigger than homosexuality, and much bigger than zina with consensus. Raping by force. That's a big no. Yeah. So the argument is faulty. It doesn't give because it mentioned various fahisha. تقول فاحشة ذا تأتون في ذلكم المنكر, etc. Meaning exercise it in public, in the nadi, in their clubs, they must have had clubs and pubs and things like that. And they do it in front of each other, for example. Maybe they have some kind of strip clubs. You never know how degenerate people have been at that time.
Epstein list P. Diddy's contemporary.
We know, for example, if you remember in the 50s, you don't remember because most of you are, but the 50s, 60s, 70s, there were many movies about the Roman Empire and the Romans and so on. Sometimes related to early Christianity, some not. And then you see when they have like a gathering of soldiers and so on, and they have food and drinks and so on, and they commit sexual acts in front of each other, so enjoying themselves while drunk and so on. Things like that. That's well known in all the movies. Now, about 30, 40 years, we never had such so-called epic movies. The fashion is out. It's out of fashion. But in that time, it was like that. That's not by force. That's consensual. But while drunk, like public orgies. But guys may have also public orgies of homosexuality. And possibly other things also. Not only that. Because there are various interpretations, but definitely doing the evil acts in public or in gathering or pubs and so on is consensual. So compounding with the act with doing it publicly in a demonstrative way, enjoying itself publicly, orgies and things like that. Yeah. So this is it's an attempt to get away with something which is nobody can get away. Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody can get away from seeing the ayah, seeing the history. What is it?
Okay, let's call it a day there, inshallah. We may not have next week's on. It's going to be bank holiday, so people might not be available. But Sunday, as usual, Q&A this month. And then...
But watch for next Sunday. We may have with some other people a small conference on Saturday and the recording in early Sunday. So maybe we'll start instead of 2, we start 3. But I will announce that.
Sure, no problem. Just let me know whatever works for you.
1 hour later. That's it. That's the max.
No problem, inshallah. It'll be Q&A, so it's much.
And Sunday will be off. Okay.
It'll be Q&A, so it's.
Next week is Q&A, and Sunday, and Monday is off because of the holiday.
Yeah.
And other meetings as well. Okay.
Sorry, somebody just answered the questions. I don't know. Somebody's asked some question about. I know someone who was enrolled and got into an argument with staff men. Don't get your question, mate. I seriously don't see what the problem is. Can you ask what? Seriously, guys, man, grow up. Yeah, we've got Q&A next week. If you're going to ask a question, if you've got a question, this is our Tawheed Halak. If you've got a question, you can wait for the question and answer session. I suppose the event has already happened, so just grow up and ask a properly formed question. I can't make sense.
Yeah, if we have something we can deal with it now, we do it.
All right, I'm going to read it out for you then. Brother, I know someone who was in Roda and got into an argument with a staff member who was aggressively pushing him when he was praying. So he shouted at him and then finished the prayer out of anger. The brother felt so bad because the Roda is a sacred place. What can he do if he felt guilty?
What again? Repeat the question. I didn't understand. Head from tail. What happened? Slow, bit by bit.
I know someone who was in Roda.
In Roda?
Roda. And he got into an
Medina,
argument.
you mean in Medina?
Yeah.
That's introduced because not everyone knows what Roda is.
Okay. And he got into an argument with a staff member who was aggressively pushing him when he was praying. So he shouted at him when finished prayer out of anger. The brother felt so bad because the Roda is a sacred place. What can he do?
No, it has nothing to do with the Roda, anywhere. So he felt angry. So what's the question now?
What can he do about it?
He exited the prayer before completing it? What's the question? If he did not complete the salah, he should complete it. Move somewhere else where he has no conflict. Or beat up the other guy up and have a scene and have the police coming. I don't know what's the question.
Don't ask me, man. He just patronizing me, saying, "Why are you insulting me for asking?" Because it's a badly formed question. What can I say about that? It's something that's happened. You're asking as if it's going to happen. You know, you can do anything about it right now.
Yeah, it may have happened. Someone, maybe some odd guy, maybe in the. I expect nobody around it to be so edgy, pushing someone around like that.
Well, you get these
but maybe someone is mental. Someone.
No, but Sheikh says you used to get that in Hajj and Umrah. You get in Hajj, or when you go Hajj, and then when you go to Medina, you got their religious police who, just idiots. You know, like they get overzealous. This happens all the time. It happens to all the time.
Then the best thing is to avoid conflict, because it's Hajj. You should be not in dispute. That Hajj should be as peaceful as possible. Just avoid. Just avoid.
It's you know, it's you get some mental stories. I mean, I was on Hajj. Somebody pulled a knife on us. It's some funny.
It could. There will be some mental people everywhere in Rauda and elsewhere.
But even like the Saudi scumbags, you know, like they're police heavy-handed.
Yeah, I remember a story told to me by my mother. I was not there. She was doing the circumambulation around the Kaaba, and one policeman who was standing near the Kaaba and preventing them, don't touch us or things like that. And there was an Egyptian lady, strong, tough lady, and she was not covering her face, which is obvious. Even tawaf, it should not be the case. And he said, "Cover your face, you prostitute." And she pulled him down and hammered him and gave him a nice boxing round.
Good.
It's good.
I mean, as I remember,
what he said is worse than what she did to him.
Yeah.
He's in the wrong.
Also, I mean, even one time, I remember when there was a Saudi royal there, they had people pushing, they're surrounding this royal. And I thought, well, what's so special about him? You know what I mean? So one time
sometimes they come with a police force. You have to veer to the side to avoid harm.
I was there once when they
but if, for example, if you are a group of people and the one who's trying to push the people aside is a smaller group, take liberty and beat them up. Like, for example, there was they blocked the entrance to Arafat in one of the Hajj. I was a president of that Hajj. I hear the story. I wasn't president of I discussed with him that. And then Madkhali himself, Rabi' Madkhali, was there and tried to divert the issue. But the issue is that they came and they blocked the road. After a certain time, they say, "Khalas, Arafat is full." And Turkish pilgrimage, the Turks are known to be tough-headed and hot-blooded, came with a bus. And they said, "Why you are blocking us?" They say, "Arafat is full. There's an order at this time, nobody enters." Say, "We can't see places there. We can't go there." They said, "No." So the Turks came down, beat up the police, moved the barriers, and drove in. If you are dealing with idiots, sometimes you need to use force. Improvise advice.
I was there once when some people, well, there was a stampede, and our package, there's some people who had to basically drag them out. But what happened was they closed it for the royals. So when the royals were coming, someone high-ranking, they closed it and it caused crushing.
Yeah. And the people are just in small group of single persons. If the people will organize themselves, if something like that happens, we're going to beat up the police and even block this high-ranking at his car and cut with a knife his tires, so he learned the lesson, never comes again. But they don't do that. They miss that opportunity, because in Hajj time with this crowd, you can get away with many things. You have to be tuned your mind and ready for that. Most Hajj are coming the first time and the last time in their life in old age, hoping some of them hoping to die in Mecca. So you don't expect them to fight for something. Just barely getting there after a long life. Yeah. So, but if some people really see these phenomena at the next Hajj, he said, "Okay, let me have some people with similar sense. We have a strong group. We protect the other people, the weak one. And if someone comes with something like that, we just get the opportunity, because it's so crowded, no help from the police can come, and we beat that high-ranking and his policemen, because they rely on terror, intimidation. They come with a car and maybe a motorcade of 5-6 policemen. If you are a group of 10, you can beat them up and beat them and they're up. So don't do it again. I just slit the tires. For example, that's a possibility. But for that, you have to be thinking about it. You have to experience it before. You have to have people with a similar sense, similar commitment. Maybe one day the Tajdeed Shaba will go there, like a group like 10, 15, 20, with the intention if someone misbehave, we'll just stop him at his tracks.
Chances of us getting
We
the
cannot let them get away by treating, for example, Pakistani or Indonesian and so on, who are usually docile in Hajj and so on. Nigerian and so on are less docile. Sometimes they beat back. they take their rights right away. But usually they focus when they say
I
that.
don't know, man. Us London Slough people, we don't take rubbish either, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
It's
or a group of people from Slough. Conspire to go 2030 and watch carefully. If someone misbehave like that, stop it. You have no right to do that. There's a prince coming. Let him go to hell. Let him wait until the evening. He can't show in the evening. Why is he coming now in the high time? Is he more pious than any of the creation?
Maybe the amount of degeneration these guys get up to, they probably need more tawbah than anyone.
Yeah. So that's
one quick question.
These things are odd things which you have to manage sometimes according to odds. If you are alone, you will not be able to face these guys. So the mistake you veer to the side. That's it. Or just advise verbally. That's it. Nothing can be done. And if it comes to the level that your salah is broken, you complete it elsewhere. Actually, you should make taslim and then complete the rest. You made 2 rak'ahs and 2 rak'ahs remaining. When you get in a safe place, complete the 2 rak'ahs. Or start from new. There's nothing worth shattering there.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Rawda or not Rawda. Rawda is a special place, but it is as holy as the place where you pray at home. Slightly more, with more barakah, but otherwise, it has nothing to do with Rawda or not.
Yeah, encouraging khuruj, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're not valid rulers anyway. It's not khuruj.
But if the people, the Muslims, are trained that they should resist that, these will respect their limits. Al Saud and the police and so on.
Okay.
But because they gang up and they will organize the police force and they have a boss and they have a captain and so on, they're more organized so that if 1 or 2 confront them, they get beaten, the 1 and 2. But if a group of people, like people from Slough, 30, 40, we will not find a police detachment of more than 5, 6, 7. They realize that's enough for the job.
I realized
give them nice beating up like the Turks did to the guys there.
I realized how retarded our people are when through Hajj. Just the most retarded systems I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I got a local corner shop, and everything when you go in there, you just see like things are just so dirty.
I'll give you a funny story. One Hajj, I think 1977. I was checking to find the place, and according to they have first of all the names of the sections on are very complicated. She, one, SH, etc. Nobody understands. So it's on a policeman who looks very good. His face is full of bright and iman with nice white beard. Say, uncle, he must have been much older than myself at that time. It was like mid-30s or early 30s. He was like 50, 60. Do you know where's this address? Say, my son, I'm not from Mecca, not even from the area. I'm from Asir, from Abha. And they offered me, do you like to have a little bit more money? And we'll give you intidab. We'll give you like a special assignment in Hajj. And they got me here this morning and put me there. So just watch that you keep the peace here. I don't know where I am standing. I'm waiting for them to pick me up in the evening. That's the kind of organization there. So I smiled at Tab doing his shoulder, thank you, shukran, uncle, and tried to find the place by myself.
This is how dumb they were. They used to take your passport. It was all manual. It was all manual. There was not even a system for that.
Yeah.
It's just you know, like you think that it's. I just can't even quantify how dumb they were. If something happens one-off, happens once in 100 years, you think, okay, fine, I'll give you a pass. If something that happens every year and you literally have wealth that comes from the ground, you have to be good at being retarded. You have to excel at being retarded to not be able to do that. Because even a dog will learn. One quick question. Somebody says,
but the problem, learn is not enough. You have to be organized so that you can resist that. Nobody is organizing, especially most Hajj are coming out from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, and their governments are sellouts. They can't complain to their governments. While, for example, the Iranian after the revolution, they were assertive. They were even they have
they used to have a presence. They used to have
they have demonstrations. They march together. They have like pilgrimage campaigns that really trouble. Really, they do it alone or small groups. They are big, well-organized groups. They have nice housing and everything. And even one year, the year where there was a skirmish in the Haram and so on, with the Saudi regime, they are attacking them and so on. There was a fight. It was a very nasty fight, really. And many police people suffered, but also Iranians suffered injuries and so on. And there was obviously a long back and forth between Saudi Arabia and Iran. That was like in the late 80s when Iran was under siege and attacked by Iraq. They wouldn't dare doing something like that in the 90s or the recent century. There's no way. But that was just a one-off. And the Saudis thought, oh, we can get away with it. And then when they tried, there was a real fight in Makkah turned into a battlefield with injuries and so on. And then how they managed the problem of that, they called all the Muslim world governments, most of them are sycophants and traitors, and had a conference in Jordan when they decided to restrict the number of Hajj from certain countries with the purpose to restrict the Hajj from Iran specifically. So they allocated per thousand population one Hajj. At the time, Iran was 40 million, so it's 30,000 Hajj. Yeah. Pakistan may have been like 110, so 110,000. But Gaddafi was sending that year, like 88 or 89. Libya had only 2.5 million, 3 million people, so he's supposed to be only 3,000. And that year he sent 40,000. Nobody dares talk to him. Everyone is afraid of him, at least from his sharp tongue. So it's a matter of just who is more powerful and who is nasty and can exercise more pressure. Clearly, these second-class countries, Pakistan, India, and so on, the government will forsake you. They are bribed by the Saudis. The same with Indonesia. The same with most African countries. But I say the African are generally, as persons, quite tough, and they travel in 5, 10, 20 groups, and they hold together, and nobody want to fool with them. But otherwise, that's the situation. The same with the Egyptian, poor guys. Big countries, but the rulers are all of them depending upon Saudi money and bribes and so on. So you don't get the protection from your own embassy. That's the reality. Nothing can be done about that. It's just you adjust yourself to that or organize yourself on a grassroots level. That's it.
Quick one. Somebody's asking about pet food. Does it have to be halal? Can you give
About what?
Pet food. You know, if you've got a pet, do you have to give halal pet food? Pet
What?
food. Pet. Do you know if you've got a cat, dog?
No, they are not obliged to. They are not Sharia compliant. They are not addressed with the divine address.
So you can give them any type of food?
Yeah, any type of food.
Okay, cool.
That does not make any sense.
Okay, got a very quick one. Somebody's saying about we're encouraging khuruj and anarchy. Listen, all of these arguments have gone through. Sorry, our works go through the entire issue of rulership, into issue of what's a valid ruler. We're not madkhalis here. We're not, Fawzan is a human being. Bin Baz is a human being. They have to refer to divine text.
Definitely.
Go through our material. Our videos are there. We have a link to
go to obedience to the ruler. Go to Hakimiyya. Go fighting this group, and then you see what the conditions or how it is. It's not chaotic, nor it is nihilistic, nor it is submissive and sycophantic or sellouts like the Madkhali. It's well structured. When and what's the limitation? How to do step number 1, referring to codes. If codes are not available, enforce new codes. If not, then enforce it. And then if you have enough power and so on, how to start a confrontation, possibly going all the way up to military confrontation. Yeah, and so on.
Also, you may not be familiar with our channel. This is the professor's got his own book of Tawheed.
Yeah.
Abdul Wahhab's this isn't Abdul Wahhab's Meow's Kitab Al-Tawheed, which is fundamentally flawed. This 4-volume book, which is in the description, destroys the the Wahhabi understanding.
Yeah,
You may not be familiar with us, but this is a nuclear missile underneath.
The basic sword in their hand is the Tawheed and graves, and that's it's a sword in their hand. They have nothing else. They don't excel in any other area except this area. Plus, obviously, they have, since this is the official doctrine of the Saudi state since several centuries, and this became wealthy in the 50s, 60s, they started printing their books and so distributing it for free in the Muslim world, which was coming just out of occupation into, obviously, they're still occupied, but nominal occupation, poverty, and they have plenty of petroleum. And the rulers, with good faith or bad faith, they supported that. Especially Faisal was playing the Islamic card against Arab nationalism and socialism. And there's enough money to print the books and distribute them. For example, you could have almost for free Ibn Taymiyyah's collection of fatwa, more than 35 volumes, almost for free. Or you can buy it very cheap in Egypt, for example. But Egyptian Ansar Sunnah and so on, who existed even before, but they were subdued, they're getting thousands of copies for free. And the members get it and so on. So that was the only diet that people have there. And the other classical ones like Al-Azhar and so on, of the Mashayikh in India and Pakistan, they are in ivory tower at best, if not cooperating with Hindus and so on. Yeah.
Okay. Abu Mahab, you want to say something?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Professor. So regarding the story of Qawm Lut, perhaps the reason why Allah did not mention that they should only worship one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because first of all, the messengerhood of Lut is a subdivision of that of Ibrahim.
No, it doesn't seem to be. That's what we answer to. That's what Al-Razi, and we say the Razi has no evidence for that. Absolutely no evidence. It's completely separate.
Because you know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he instructed Ibrahim to make hijrah, and then he told that Ibrahim, now your cousin Lut will be sent to another nation. So it seems to be like a continuation of the same messengerhood. Like,
where did he say will be sent to another nation? Who said when Ibrahim immigrated he was sent to the people of Palestine? No.
Yes.
Where is it?
I cannot recall the ayah, but I can search for it. But
search for it. You will not find. He did hijrah there. We saved him to this country. That's all. That's all people imagining things. No, actually, they were already well established by temple and sanctuary in Salem, and there was Melchizedek there, the one who paid the percentage of his spoils of war, and he blessed them. The area is already well established. There are already messengers there.
Yes,
the majority may have been monotheists anyway.
Exactly. That was the second point that I was going to make. In one ayah, I remember it correctly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كَذَّبَتْ قَوْمُ لُوطٍ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. So it seems that there has been
that's the same with Ad, the same with Thamud. It's a general statement. If you deny one messenger, you will deny all the messengers. The Muslims discussed this point already long ago. People of Hud and so on. And also when Salih said, وَبَلِغْكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ رَبِّي, plural.
Yes,
plural. But it's Risala or Risalat is the same.
But here Allah specified Mursaleen, not Risalat. So
there's another place. Check for Mursaleen in the Quran. You will find many places, and then you see كذبت كذا مرسلين, كذبت كذا مرسلين, etc.
Yeah, like Nuh, people of Nuh.
Yeah, people of Nuh. No, all these arguments are not correct.
Okay, the final and third point. So perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention that because he wanted to illustrate more or highlight more on this homosexual deviancy. He did not want to because in previous ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he said "U'budullah ma lakum ilahan ghayruhu."
In all ayahs, but in every one they're mentioning of idols, mentioning of worshipping stars, mentioning things like mentioning, but in Lut none of that at all. So this is interesting, meaning it does not exist until you otherwise. Under we check the Old Testament, there is nothing about idols there whatsoever.
Yeah, because for example, you are correct because in the story of Madian, he said ما لكم من إله غيره, and then he went ولا المكيال والميزان. Don't take
Oh, that's
bribes.
additional. That's additional.
Additional, yes.
Yeah. But
Mm,
clearly, ما لكم من إله غيره.
I see.
The answer to him is that is your prayer is that prohibiting or ordering you to forsake the gods of our fathers and do with your money whatever we want. We have the freedom also in our money, but we have other gods also. Where we
Yeah.
want in the narrow sense, and there's the other details. So we have we have these idols. Besides, we have the right to manage our money any way we like because our idols never interfered with that. So how come that your God is now suddenly interfering with that? Yeah.
Mm,
The story of Madian, for example.
yeah.
Everywhere there's mentioning of idol or mentioning of gods or mentioning relation to the jinn, جعلوا بينه وبين الجنة نسبا, or relation that they attributed a wife to him, or children or sons. Nowhere in the Pure of Lut, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
It looks
Absolutely.
like there's no issue there whatsoever like that.
Mm. Interestingly, Professor, I want to jump because I'm teaching the Book of Tawheed for some relatives during Ramadan. So, like few points came into my mind. You know, when you were the chapter responding to Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Taymiyyah's claim that the Mushrikeen had Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, and you said no, they did not have Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, even if they acknowledge that Allah is the creator. You said that they could be attributing shirk in different characteristics. And here, yes, and here let me read
Not
you.
shirk, attributing divinity aspects to the various characteristics.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in one of the aspects, let me read it in Arabic. You wrote number 4D أن لهم أي للمشركين أو لملوكهم أو لكبرائهم السيادة والحاكمية أي حق التشريع. So the right of legislating, legislating, the right
that's
of
one type of shirk, And
exactly. So perhaps جزاكم الله خير, in the next edition you could also add that this is indeed the shirk of secularism because
we can mention that. It's mentioned
yes.
everywhere in the book, but we can mention it also there.
Because secularists do not deny the existence of Allah and He's the creator and He's everything, but they say no, in terms of managing our affairs, we have the right, to legislate, to sit down in the parliament.
That's a shirk. So
yeah, so that's a type of shirk. Yes,
they're
indeed.
undermining the absolute sovereignty, which is an aspect of divinity. That's ultimate sovereignty is the right only of a divine being.
Exactly. Another point I also want to bring to your attention, the chapter of the divine ability or divine capability. You said that al-qudra al-ilahiyya, the divine capability, must not oppose rationality or rational.
The creating the impossible is not accessible to power. It contradicts the definition of power.
Exactly. But the precursor or the predecessor of this is actually the desire, the will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not will something that
also that's all of it part, all of the package, all of it is consistent. A divine is the haqq, so he will never have a desire to do the impossible, which is impossible.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But Professor, ya Sheikh, in terms of numbering 1, 2, 3, I mean, in terms of steps, that the desire, the will of Allah comes before
he will never the will the impossible, because this will be irrational. Will be contradicting that he's the haqq.
Absolutely, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, لو أراد
الله visual say على كل شيء قدير. The impossible is not shayء. That's the point. The same in Alim. The future events which are not decided already by Allah are not shay. They Adam, don't exist yet.
I see. So notice these ayahs, لو أراد, if Allah desire, or if Allah wills, and then in another ayah, إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا. So he's talking about the will and the divine will.
But what has this to do with the issue?
So the issue is that you
إذا أراد شيئا, read the ayah. شيئا is the impossible shay, is not a shay.
Yeah, but the irada comes before the shay, ya Sheikh. Right?
No. إذا أراد شيئا. والشيء can be شيء. The impossible is not a شيء. Is that a linguistic term for nothingness? Yeah.
So you are saying, let me understand this correctly. You are saying that the divine ability is connected also in the same time with the divine desire. It's like same package, you said.
Independent of that, or the word شيئا, it does not apply to the impossible. It's not a شيء. Although you may linguistically think it's a شيء, it's not a شيء. You may have a word for it, but it doesn't exist. It's an impossibility. I gave also the example of the square circle. Linguistically, you can say square circle, and you think it is shay. It's nothing. It's impossible. It's an impossibility.
So it is not conceivable for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to think, to even think of these things because they are not
it's not a shay. That's it.
Okay. Now it's
clear. Don't be fooled by the language can fool you to think that there is some meaning and something is completely meaningless.
Okay. I get it now.
That's complete. That's the fundamental issue with this.
I see.
Capable of having expression which looks like if they are addressing something, and this something does not exist. And it may fool people for a long time. Like, for example, the beginning of so-called set theory, through the definition of Cantor, and then based on that, although it has no effect on the development of the arithmetic, that's in Principia Mathematica by Russell and so on, and they developed it starting from this, and then later on they detected that a construct like the set of all sets is eternally contradictory because it must contain itself as an element, that's impossible, and cannot contain itself as an element, that's impossible. So such an entity does not exist. Or we have the word set of all sets, it looks legitimate. It's not.
Yeah.
It's even, someone could say, is like saying blah, blah, ka, blah, blah. What is this? Nothing. Actually, it's worse than that because blah, blah, ka, blah, it is just sounds, meaning nothing. But this one seems to be meaning something which is impossible. Even worse, it deceives you more than because the other one will not deceive you, say. If I say ka, blah, 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 you say, this is just sound, it's nonsense. You would conclude it's nonsense. But when I tell you, you're not worried about the point of the set of all sets, even Gottlob Frege, who was communicating with Russell and so on about the issues of logic and fundamentalism, when he received this information from Russell, he fell ill and went to the hospital for several weeks. He could not overcome the shock in his mind and express something like for something which is impossible. He could not solve the problem, and recognizing that the language has this capability. It's wider than the possibilities.
I see.
You detect that many things, fallacies, will be immediately exposed. Yeah, that's it. But let's don't go in these things. This is way too deep. It's very obvious. Just go a simple way. على كل شيء قدير. Everything which can be a شيء is accessible to power. The impossible is not a شيء. Will never be a شيء. That's the meaning. It's impossible. Like, for example, the divine being disappearing suddenly become from necessarily existing into possibly and dying and expire. It's not possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Neither the will go there, nor the power will reach there. Nothing. It's nonsensical. Yeah.
A third point I also want to make in the book of Tawheed regarding the chapter of the Sabaeans, the Sabi'un, and you said that it is marfu' with waw, Sabi'un, not with Sabi'in, which means that they are a part of or a group of.
That's the best interpretation because it doesn't say that, but says إن الذين آمنوا واليهود والصابئون والنصارى should be الصابئين. If it's another, but we say والصابئون, what does this mean? Why it seems to be grammatically wrong? No, it's not wrong. It is he dropped as اليهود ومنهم الصابئون. That will be the meaning. That's it.
That is understandable.
Alternatively, the Quran has a linguistic error, which is not possible.
No, there's a third option. Let me give you. There is, in fact, multiple ayahs in the Quran, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also linguistically does the same thing, framing, which, for example, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَالْمُقِيمِينَ الصَّلَاةَ وَالْمُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. So, وَالْمُقِيمِينَ الصَّلَاةَ, those who establish prayer, is mansub with ya, al-muqimina, instead of the waw. So,
what does it mean there? Yeah.
So most Mufassirin said that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes he says al-muqimina, not al-muqimuna. Why sometimes
Because
as-sabi'una, not
there is a
as-sabi'una.
verb there, وَأَخُصُّ الْمُقِيمِينَ. I praise
Yes,
them.
exactly.
The same
He
thing.
want to highlight
Same
that
thing.
more.
Yeah, the same thing there. There is a جملة اسمية, here's خبرية, the same thing.
Yeah, but yeah, Sheikh, that doesn't mean that they are a group of Judaism.
No. In this place, the only way to say وَهُمْ وَمِنْهُمُ الصَّابِئُونَ. What else? Give me something which will make it make sense.
That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to illustrate more on the emphasize more on the Sabi'un.
How
That
to
they are
emphasize? What? Give
specialized even
me a
further.
sentence which you substitute. Everyone say he want to emphasize. What is the emphasization by making it mubtada?
That perhaps they have less shirk, and for example, this means that they are more closer to Allah
Yeah, but
subhanahu wa ta'ala.
make a sentence. It must be, you must be able to substitute a sentence. I gave you a sentence. إن الذين آمنوا واليهود
إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى.
والنصارى واليهود والصابئون instead of
Yes.
الصابئين. So why it is not grammatically like the other before or after? Must be something extra meant. What's the meaning? Which sentence you can put there to make it correct? ومنهم الصابئون. Give me something. If you have another alternative, give it to me. Yeah, that's it. I have no problem with that. But give me something. Something which makes sense.
So how can we understand the other?
Allah what emphasizes, but we emphasize وأخص. I point your direction towards al-muqimin.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
I gave you a sentence which you can put there. Give me there a sentence or something to put there. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
ومنهم الصابئون. That's the only one which comes in your mind. Try all the. Maybe if you like say وعليك بالصابئين, that's what it cannot be. It must be مجرور. Substitute everything in your imagination.
I see.
I praise the الصابئين, it must be مجرور. Or instead of منهم وأفضلهم الصابئون. Okay, then أفضل اليهود. So the same thing.
But why you are assuming that they are a connection of Judaism? Like
Because they come after the Yahud مباشرة. That's it. It's a section of the Yahud.
I see. So how can we understand the other ayahs? For example, وَالْمُقِيمِينَ الصَّلَاةَ
I gave you the sentence. إن الذين آمنوا كذا وأخص. I especially praise those.
Okay. In these ayahs, the other ayahs,
every ayah you must have a wording which make the linguistic apparent linguistic error not an error.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
That's otherwise doesn't make any sense. You have two options. Either it is from Allah and this must be correct. Such an error cannot happen. There must be interpretation. It is half and ikhtisar. And plenty of ikhtisar in Quran in other places, but sometimes there's a complete sentence there which you have to put with your mind in that place. Otherwise you will be in error. But people usually do not notice because this one seems to be odd grammatically in error in that location. That's it. Said, oh, there must be. And even they fabricate hadith say, I see there's lahan, there's an error there, but the reader will correct it. That's nonsense of it. So it doesn't make any sense. The hadith is clearly fabricated, even if you check that it's not.
The endings of each ayah يا شيخ, they are all similar. So let me give you first of all والصابئون من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Okay, this is the first ending of صابئون. Let's take the ending of for example والمقيمين الصلاة والمؤتون الزكاة والمؤمنون بالله أولئك سنؤتيهم أجرا عظيما. And then in the third ayah والصابرين والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين instead of الصابرون حين أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. So what I'm trying to say is that in all of these,
and that one المقيمين الصلاة looks like an error. Yes.
No, not an error.
No, it looks like that because all others مرفوع.
Exactly. From the first glance.
Yeah, that's what we are discussing. Why are going east and west?
Yeah.
What is the interpretation of that? It's not from Allah. We agreed on Allah on other evidences, compelling evidences. So what the meaning? وأخص المقيمين الصلاة. One second.
Yes.
Very like anybody else. All these features, but the مقيمين الصلاة are more established. Why?
are more established in reward for in the
Yeah, whatever it is, أخصهم. I mentioned them specifically because it's not mentioning المصلين, المقيمين الصلاة. Establishing the salah meaning establishing the deen in its totality. So summarizing, I mentioned that specifically to point your attention. I'm talking about not about المصلين. لم يكن من المصلين. لا. I establish الصلاة. المقيمين الصلاة. Establish الصلاة in their life.
Yeah.
Like هذا حديث ما أقاموا فيكم الصلاة. Adnewing is correct. ما establish الدين. ما قادوكم بكتاب الله. Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to substitute something they're missing, which makes sense linguistically. The same with it. واليهود المفروض يكونوا والصابئين ها إن كذا. Why is this مرفوع? Error? We said no, it's not error because of divine revelation. Okay, fine then. Oh, the kafir will say, oh, Muhammad made a mistake that he was sleeping at that moment. Fine. Let him with his belief. What will be? I said the same list ومنهم الصابئون ولو أفضلهم الصابئون خيارهم الصابئون. Anything which should make it مرفوع making sense. That's it.
I see.
The same list ومنهم الصابئون وكذا خيارهم الصابئون. Yeah. All would mean that's part of the Jews.
Yeah, part of the group. Yeah.
Part of that group before them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, in the other ayahs, for example, when والمقيمين الصلاة, it is part of the الراسخون في العلم. لكن الراسخون في العلم والمؤمنون والكذا والمقيمين.
Whatever it is, المقيمين is stressed putting مقيم because إقامة الصلاة is more important than just صلاة and zakah and so on.
But they are ultimately part of الراسخون في العلم. How the ayah starts.
It doesn't matter what part of it. That's we're talking about why it is منصوب. That's part or not part, that's something else. No, you don't need to be مقيم الصلاة to be راسخ في العلم. That's an extra rank. No. مقيمين الصلاة, they will establish salah in their life. You don't need to be راسخ في العلم. You will be really devoted and making all your life according to salah, according to obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So
maybe a simple man, you will be راسخ في العلم. But in the minute of that, the question, why not والمقيمون? That's it. And the answer is what scholars in time past said. Like for example, تنزيلا ممن خلق السماوات والأرض العلى. من خلق السماوات. You could say معطوف على من الرحمن على العرش, but nobody read الرحمن. الرحمن هو الرحمن. So we have to substitute هو there. Why don't it stop there? Because separate ayah, you don't notice the point. تنزيلا من خلق السماوات والأرض العلى. Nobody يسمى say الرحمن على العرش يستوي. يعني من تنزيل من this one. But then to stress this divine attribute separation from even creating the heaven and earth intrinsically, هو الرحمن على العرش استوى. Is the same one that من خلق السماوات والأرض تنزيلا ممن خلق السماوات. So من خلق السماوات والأرض العلى مجرور بمن؟ ممن.
Yeah.
And it could continue say الرحمن على العرش استوى, very perfectly nice, but stopping there and starting a new sentence وهو الرحمن على العرش استوى. He's the same one, is stronger, put more emphasis. And no read the Rahmani. But if you read the Rahmani, you are not making a major error. It's a minority reading. So many other places are called like that, but this one, because it's odd between a set of their muqimina and everything else is marfu', and there is everything is mansu', and this is muqimina, it looks like an error. There are many places in the Quran like that. But they go without saying, because it's very obvious. Here is less obvious. Here it gives us in this والصابئون خيرهم الصابئون أحسنهم الصابئون أكثرهم الصابئون ومنهم الصابئون is the symbols. إذا الصابئون with the Quran praises are the part of the Jews. And there's part of Ahl Kitab. They are not the صابئون of the star worshipper of Harran who claim to be صابئون, playing, benefiting from the word play.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Did you know, I will end with this inshallah. Did you know, يا شيخ, that الصابئون in Iraq, the ethno group, the ethno religious group in Iraq, they have تعميد, what they call it in English.
Yeah, they claim they follow the Baptist.
Yahya and Zakaria. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're part of the Jews. That's it.
because they themselves claim, although we are the followers of Jonah and Zechariah, but they try to connect themselves somehow to the older generations, to Ibrahim alayhi salam.
That's
This is
because Isa and so on also follower of Zechariah and so on before them. That's nothing special there. That doesn't matter. These details, what they are and so on. We can study it, make a PhD on it. But the issue here was صابئون, why it is مرفوع. ومنهم الصابئون. What are these صابئون? Really, we check. Some people claim to be صابئين in Harran. They are believing in deities of the stars. They are philosophers. They have nothing to do with صابئون the Quran mentioned. That's the point to be stressed. That's all.
Yeah.
The section called منهم الصابئون is to clarify this point. And they mentioned Abu Hanifa's point of view, Abu Yusuf's point of view, and so on. Can you say them kids? All these things, are they mushrikeen or not? The Sabi'un mention the Quran usually in a praising form. These are the part of the Jews, good part of the Jews. أفضلهم الصابئون, even the Jews, maybe. Or they following the last prophet of there. But they missed Isa because most likely they immigrated when John the Baptist was killed. They escaped to Iraq and did not receive the message of Isa, or they said ignore it. We don't know that. Someone can study the history. That's irrelevant for us. But they still regard as some of the remaining reasonable Jews. But there was another used by the people of Harran who believe in the multiple reason, the first reason, second reason, and the star. Every star is a deity. It has a soul and mind. These are genuine mushrikeen.
I think they ceased to exist anyway. They are not.
If they ceased or not, in time past they were still there. They claimed we are the Sabi'un of the Quran to get away with it. That's it. That's historical. That's the reason. If you read the section again, open your eyes. We discussed those and mentioned what Abu Hanifa thought. What his follower Abu Yusuf thought. They succeeded in taking even Abu Hanifa for a ride. Because they claimed, we are not star worshipper. The star is a qibla for us. They discussed it. Go and read it again. But the issue was not that. The issue was because it's mentioned in a praise form, and it's very common in early history of Islam, 2nd, 3rd century, that these are people of Harran. They are not. There's the other one you just mentioned, the one who have baptism.
Okay. So, Professor, perhaps another fourth point. This one is very interesting. I was checking the temples in Levant and Iraq. Did you know that there's actually two temples of Allat? One temple in Palmyra in Tadmur. It was established in the 2nd century AD. And then there is another Allat temple specifically for Allat. We are talking about specifically for worshiping Allat in Hitra, in another ancient Arabic city in Iraq this time. Also, it is established in the 2nd century AD, which makes the hypothesis that, or the theory that you made, that Amr bin Luhay is most probably in the 2nd century AD is likely, is very genuinely likely.
Not necessarily. Maybe he before, and these are new established, because Allat itself is mentioned in the cuneiforms 3,000 before Christ anyway. So nothing. It's mentioned. You can read it there in the book of Tawheed. It's mentioned ancient information. That temple in the 2nd century or the 1st century or the 5th century BC doesn't make any difference. Temples have been demolished and so on.
But I will end with this one, wallahi. Brother Rash, I will end with this one. It seems to me, Sheikh, that it was very rampant, the worship of Allat among Arabs.
Definitely, it was also in Taif, and we have even pictures on the rocks of the Allat, but this is irrelevant to who introduced it to Mecca and so on.
No, I'm stressing that it was in the 2nd century AD, so that's make your theory probable.
That's the temples which have been founded, but there may be temples which extinct which were 10 centuries before.
We have to dig further.
We have cuneiform information that it is 2,000 years before.
I see.
That's it. So this is not an evidence that it is in the 2nd century. No.
Okay.
It's before him. He imported it, and then later on, some people built the new temples, some extinct, some remaining, because the last building phase was maybe 2nd century. After that, Christianity became prevalent, and no new temples were built.
Absolutely,
So this is not a correct conclusion, but anyway, secondary point.
Okay. We have to dig further. Okay, Jazakallah khair, barakallah feekum.
يلا.
Anyone else got anything to
conclude
say?
يلا.
No problem,
Anything?
inshallah. Okay, no problem, inshallah. All right, then.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك استغفرك واتوب اليك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. وبارك على محمد وآل محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته. تصبحون على خير.